It's Noor Azizan Gardner. How are you doing today?
Hello, Matthew. Very good, thank you.
Fantastic. So we've got an exciting topic. We've done some pre-chat. As you'll see in this interview, that's important, setting up the conditions. What are we going to talk about today? What's on your mind, Noor?
Dialogue, and especially in a polarized society, and how critical that is to be able to do that in a mindful, respectful way.
So you are a heroine because you've navigated a particular or potentially tricky chapter. So do you want to just talk us through that chapter?
Yes, it was in my previous position where I had an interesting task of really thinking about what does inclusion mean? And that's, you have diversity, and the other companion to diversity is inclusion. And in a conservative state where I lived, and I felt it was critical that everybody is in the diversity council, the conservatives and the progressives and the liberal as well. And so one of the president of the Republican student group wanted to bring a very controversial speaker to campus, very much a conservative speaker. In the council, we talked about them bringing her, and of course, everybody was very upset about this. But I felt that I really needed to allow this to happen and ask everyone to contribute to making the space for this to happen, a space where both conservative, liberals, progressives can be there and have a dialogue about the issues she presented. And I think it was critical that that space is given. In a university, it's about bringing up these issues so that students hopefully are much more enlightened. That's the only way we can
Well, that
have
wonderful phrase,
university.
it's teaching people how to think, or in this
Right.
case, how to listen and think. It's not teaching people what to think. And therefore, an alternative perspective for 50% of the crowd, this is an alternative voice, is a critical part of that.
It's the ability to listen to the issues she brought up and to be able to reframe and to be able to tell the audience, this is what I understood from your speech, your presentation. This is my perspective on this issue, which is completely opposite of yours. And it's really important for you to know that I don't agree with what you said. And I think having the space for people to be able to do that is important at a university.
So, what preconditions? Sounds like you negotiated the setup of this. What criteria, what principles did you put to the fore before this happened in the arrangement of this speaker?
A couple of things. Students, everybody needs to be a part of the preparation. I think that the college Republicans need to understand that this is going to really hit many, many people in a really difficult way. I mean, it's going to create such emotional uproar, and it can put salt on the wounds of many people who feel that what she had to say is incredibly divisive, but not just divisive, incredibly hurtful as well. And I think it's important for people to understand she's known for doing this. Given that, how would you prepare such that your fellow students, and again, to remind them that we are in a community of respect and care for each other, and that's important. It's not about my conservative views or my progressive or liberal views. We also need to care for each other in the community. And I think it's critical that they are all there in the preparation. Without that, it's going to be difficult for anyone to at a university to present a very controversial, sarcastic, and blatantly rude speaker. You have to be able to prepare.
Exactly. That we have some figures like that in the UK. Katie Hopkins, any viewer from the UK would understand that. Then these people aren't real. I'm sure Katie
Right.
Hopkins, she's a mother of a couple of kids. I'm sure if you met her, I've met her just tiny 1 second. I'm sure she's perfectly in private, perfectly fine. There's a mask that's put on. Alex Jones also is a sort of controversial figure in the
Yes.
US. And it's a game, isn't it? I think Alex Jones at his divorce hearing said, "I'm not that person. This is a persona I chuck out for
Right.
money."
Right.
which is probably the same for this person as well. But also, don't we feel that if you are brave enough and compassionate enough to actually hear someone from the other side, it is the best critique of your position? You can
Yes.
shift your position if you're courageous enough to go, this other person has seen a contradiction in what I'm saying. You've got to be brave. You've got to take a stretch. There's a benefit, there's a
Right.
bonus though.
Right. But you can't prevent people from being very emotional. But I think one of the things that I need to remind everybody was that when anybody shouts, no one listens. And so you can have a shouting match, but that also prevents you from presenting your perspective to the audience, which is just as important. It's critically important for you to be able to challenge somebody who is incredibly controversial and tell the person, I'm sorry, but your perspective is incredibly ignorant, if that's the case, and be able to present your case why it is so. But if you start shouting, then people won't listen. And I think then you lose the chance to present a very important stance about an issue.
By the way, was this two speakers and a vote, or was it just one speaker and Q&A?
It's one speaker and Q&A.
But the
And
Q&A
that,
was long enough to
right,
get some stuff out there, to get a counterpoint going.
right. Yeah, it's really interesting because I thought there'd be a lot of people there. It's in an auditorium of 1,200 that seated 1,200, but amazingly enough, only 200 people showed up.
But in
So
a way,
what?
that's well, from a security perspective, that's probably a bit of a relief. Did
It
you
was.
get okay? So was this person, without giving any content away, was this person
Mhm.
provocative and winding everybody up and being naughty?
Yes,
So
exactly.
they
All
were
of that.
true to their brand. Do you feel, and this I think is the other thing, do you feel the opposing point of view were courageous, were articulate, and had a say?
I think some of them showed up, but I think the majority of students who were against her perspective and opinions decided that the best way they can deal with this is to not show up.
What did you think about that?
They-
Because that's the modern thing. Cancelling, no platforming, not showing up, which seems to me the opposite of what we should be doing. What's your feeling on that?
Well, since they did not prevent her from speaking,
Yeah, okay.
what they
No.
decided to do was to not show up
To
there.
boycott,
And
yeah.
so I was equally disappointed that they weren't there, but they decided to do that. And I respected their decisions because I think that they were not ready yet to face with their emotions. Right.
If I just do the safe space thing, it seems to me that there's two versions of the safe space. One is a robust arena for safe dialogue, but which could be extreme left and extreme right. So a lot of big things are said. So if you have permission to say
Hmm.
whatever you like, and people have a contract that they will not be offended. And the opposite of that is this sort of unsafe. I feel unsafe, so therefore I will boycott, which is people's right not to be upset. And
Right.
it's a subtle differentiation. Both of those things are called safe space, but there is a
Hmm.
difference between those. But it seems to be that there's a loss with that. There's a loss with that. Again, if people have the confidence and the structure is there to prevent actual violence, mental or
Hmm.
emotional, physical, then there is an opportunity again for the critique, for the discourse, for the dialogue, and out of it, a reconciliation, a mediation, a
Hmm.
synthesis, a synergy, an answer, a way forward can come out of two people slugging it out.
Right. But society has not proven to have the ability to hold those spaces. And I think that history showed us that oftentimes when we have um, situations where we have such highly emotional stakes, where opinions are so diverse or opposing opinions, and the stakes are also very high, that we have failed as a society to be able to provide those spaces to happen. And I think that it is up to us to, for many of us who have the privilege of reflecting on these issues and circumstances, to then right, or in those of us who have the privilege to be leaders, to be able to institute such spaces.
I think you're doing a marvelous job. I mean, I think that's my job with my writing, is to navigate the middle path, to reconcile the extreme positions. But let's just look at those extreme positions. It seems to be that they are self-perpetuating. It's groupthink. It's fairly culty.
Right.
This freedom to think something fairly hateful, fairly extreme, when you were absolutely validated and praised and encouraged by everyone around you, it's pretty
Mhm.
difficult to get out of the gravity of that position. And it seems to be that that produces the boycott, that produces the non-attendance, that
Mhm.
produces the deafness to the other
Mhm.
point of view, the other perspective.
Hateful speeches is very difficult to counter.
When was your
Now,
debate?
that was 10 years ago.
So what would happen today?
I don't think that the groups would be in a council together today. Now, they won't even speak to each other, let alone be in the same room. I felt that when I left university, I was disappointed with how politics have shaped the way we even run a university. And and,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
was, I needed to have time away, start my own consulting group, just because I felt very much that I need to influence society at large first. The university is a microcosm of the society at large. And today, I really could not have possibly done it that way. Progressive liberal would be demonstrating outside the auditorium, and the conservative would probably counter in an equal way, also demonstrating against the progressive liberals. And it's just going to be a shouting match between these groups rather than really having a dialogue. And that's sad.
What is the hope in this scenario, young Noor? What should they
What
be
is the
looking to
hope?
hang on
I
to?
think the United States is beginning to understand how critical it is to have respectful leaders who can get all sides together.
Why hasn't the trifactor, which we talked about the other time, of utter disaster produced amazing leadership now? Might not have done at the beginning, but why not now?
Right,
Why isn't
right.
there a superhero with tights and red pants on coming ba 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 flying across the sky and saying, "Leave it to me, people"?
Everyone's ready because we are really in an absolute cataclysmic chaos right now. I feel very strong. There are enough people like us around the world.
Maybe we're the
Yeah.
heroes.
Yes, why not? And I think that it's really interesting because I feel very much when I was talking about how we need to really up the ante to train leaders in academia better. And I just thought for a while, I'm not going to wait for anyone else to do it. I have to do it.
Thank you so much, Noor, for
You're
sharing a
welcome.
critical part of world history. Thank you, viewers, for all the kind words you say on social media. I won't thank you for the rude words you say on social media, but I will listen to your critical and opposite point of view and take any value out of the rudeness that you broadcast. All right, people, thanks very much. See you, Noor. See ya. Here we go.
Bye, Matthew.